In her high-rise Manhattan office, Clara only drank rare Darjeeling tea, brewed in a Wedgwood porcelain pot. Every gram was calculated like gold, a symbol of her refinement and power. But then she came to Hanoi, and all those expensive rituals were forgotten. Why? Because of a simple, free, moss-green liquid poured from a worn-out aluminum kettle. She quickly became addicted to its pure, sharp taste and faint aroma, because she realized what was being poured wasn't just water, but time and respect. This is the story of how a financial expert learned the true value of care without a single spreadsheet. Following the shock of the helping instinct in Saigon, Clara knew she needed a change of scenery to reset her mind. She'd learned that speed and risk were obsolete models, but she still needed to find a new model for human connection. So, she flew to Hanoi. Unlike the beautiful, spontaneous chaos of Saigon, Hanoi, especially the Old Quarter, felt wrapped in a profound sense of contemplation. History seemed to seep from the ancient walls. It was a place where rules weren't written down, but passed down through actions and gestures. A perfect environment for someone like Clara, who always sought structure. She found a humble sidewalk iced tea stall on a quiet street near Hangai. The owner was Bahua, a woman in her 60s with a face as gentle as a Buddha statue. She was always busy near her small charcoal stove, where an old aluminum kettle constantly puffed out steam. In Clara's former life, tea was a status symbol. She had spent hours studying premium varieties, Japanese matcha for its perfection, pu'er for its long-term investment value, and Darjeeling for its unmistakable sophistication. Her tea was the embodiment of control and luxury. But here, everything was astonishingly simple. Bahua would take a handful of fresh green tea leaves, drop them into the pot, pour in boiling water, and wait for just a few minutes. There was no thermometer, no timer, no gold-plated filter. Only intuition and habit, honed over decades. Clara ordered a cup. Bahua poured it into a small, simple ceramic bowl. The taste was a shock to her palate, a sharp, almost aggressive bitterness from the very first sip. It wasn't gentle or complex. It was as authentic and raw as the sidewalk life buzzing around her. But immediately after that bitterness came a lingering, cooling sweetness, deep and persistent. She silently called it the zero-cost luxury. This wasn't the refined tea she was used to. It was the laborer's refreshment, yet it offered an uncompromising clarity of mind. She was instantly addicted to that raw, honest flavor. But what truly captivated her wasn't the taste, it was the people around her. Right next to Clara, a family of 3 generations was seated. Ong Tai, the 80-something grandfather, sat on the highest wooden chair. Beside him were his son Khan and his granddaughter Tuyet. Their conversation was slow, unhurried. Tuyet poured the tea, but she didn't pour for herself first. She poured for her grandfather. And Ong Tai received the small cup using both hands. It was a silent, graceful ritual of reverence. Clara immediately thought of her own family. Her relationship with her elderly parents back in the US was maintained through scheduled calls, annual visits, and financial support. It was all transactional. She would calculate it in her head. I call twice a week. I cover the nursing costs. That is sufficient. My liability is fulfilled. But here, she witnessed actions that could never be quantified. Ong Tai began telling a story, one that Clara was certain he had told hundreds of times. Yet Kern, his son, listened with undiminished focus. He didn't interrupt or check his phone. He simply placed a hand on his father's back, a simple gesture that said, "I am here. I am listening." Then Ong Tai coughed. Tuyet, the granddaughter, who had been busy with her phone, immediately stood up. She didn't fetch medicine. She took an old palm leaf fan and began to gently cool him, chasing away the afternoon heat. This simple act was a sacrifice of her time given freely. Clara, the valuation expert, instinctively tried to assign a number to these actions. Time spent listening to an old story, 15 minutes. The cooling gesture, 30 seconds. Total value, unquantifiable. She had a startling realization. In her system, time was money. Therefore, spending 15 minutes listening to an old story was a massive opportunity cost. But for this family, time was respect. And respect wasn't a cost, it was an investment in their connection. Clara thought to herself, they're investing in an asset that never depreciates: trust and kinship. In my own ledger, I classified my parents as a liability to be settled. I never saw them as an invaluable asset. Mesmerized by this display of reverence, Clara wanted to participate. First, she bought a bundle of fresh green tea and offered it to Ba Hua, the vendor. Ba Hua accepted it with a gentle, knowing smile. Then, Clara tried to engage with the family's custom. As Ong Tai prepared to stand, Clara, driven by her American instinct for convenience, stepped forward and offered to pay for their drinks. Khan, the son, smiled politely but held up a hand to refuse. "Thank you, miss," he said, "but we cannot allow you to do that. My grandfather is treating you." Clara was confused. Ong Tai didn't even know her, yet he was inviting her to drink his tea. Ong Tai, hearing the exchange, gestured to his granddaughter. Taoyet, without a word, poured a fresh full cup of tea and respectfully presented it to Clara with both hands. It was a breakthrough moment. Khan translated his father's words, which were slow but clear. He says, "This is fresh tea. Drink it. Drink it to remember that if you sit here with us, you are family. It has no price." Clara received the teacup with both hands, mimicking the gesture she had learned just by watching Taoyet. The warmth of the ceramic spread through her palms. The deep bitterness of the green tea was no longer a shock, but an invitation, an acceptance. She realized that in her world, every instance of care was a subtle transaction. Here, care was a gift, given freely and unconditionally. She remembered the accident in Chicago, how she had feared the liability of even touching the victim. But this family's relationship was built on touch: a hand on the back, a cup offered with two hands, a fan cooling a forehead. These physical gestures were conduits of respect, requiring no insurance contract or risk assessment. Clara didn't finish the tea immediately. She sipped it slowly, feeling each drop, allowing the bitterness to pass and the sweetness to linger. For the first time in her life, she allowed herself to be served unconditionally, without feeling indebted or needing to calculate its value. She felt the warmth of this family permeating her, melting away the cold, hard rigor of her calculations. When she finally left, she did not offer money. She simply bowed her head to Ba Hua and Ong Tai. Then she gently touched Ong Tai's hand with both of hers. In slow, reverent Vietnamese, she said, "Chao Kam On Ong, Chao Ja Hoc Juoch Niu." "Thank you, grandfather. I have learned much." She walked away from the Old Quarter, carrying not just the astringent taste of green tea, but the profound flavor of reverence. She knew that when she returned to Chicago, she wouldn't just call her parents on schedule. She would ask, "Do you need a fan?" And she would listen without ever again calculating those 15 minutes as an opportunity cost. The highest value doesn't lie in things we can measure with money or protect with contracts, but in simple acts of unconditional respect. Reverence is the only invaluable asset that can never be litigated. If the contrast between financial calculation and family reverence in Clara's story resonates with you, share this video with those who believe time spent with family is a cost. And don't miss the next chapter in the Slow Drip series, where Clara must confront the art of bargaining, a complex yet deeply human system set against the rigidity of the stock market. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, and follow to join our community and never miss a story.